43 degrees. Moving into Friday, we can anticipate variable cloud cover with the possibility of a shower in spots. The high will reach 67 degrees. Friday night will bring partly cloudy conditions with a low of 51. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina on AM 560, The Answer.
Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com.
Now, from the Signature Bank Studios, this hour of the Shaun Thompson Show is sponsored exclusively by DonleyAuctions.com. They need your guns. Sell for top dollar. DonleyAuctions.com.
I love America. I love the Constitution. I love the First Amendment. I want to carry and all else. I love property. And let me tell you something. If you care about your country, I'll read Ludwig von Mises and the 6 lessons of the Austrian Economic School, motherfuckers.
From the streets of Melrose Park to the trading floor of the Merc, he's fought for every dollar he's ever earned. And now, with personal liberty and our system of capitalism under assault in America, he's here to seize back our rights from the government. With a cigar in one hand and a copy of the Declaration of Independence in the other, he's Shaun Thompson. And this is the Shaun Thompson Show.
Some folks are born made to wave the flag. Ooh, they're red, white.
Now, I have to tell you, every time I get to talk to our next guest, I am put in a time machine and thrown back to an era when everybody, and I mean everybody, was so proud of the president, so proud to be an American, and so proud of the people the president chose, knowing how important it was. So Frank Gaffney was very young back then, 1987, 1986. I think that's the first time I heard his name. And I watched as that's when you started to realize the nefarious players in the world that were operating against American interest, both in Europe, the Soviet Union back then, it was the Cold War, and the Chinese communists. And you know who was always fighting for America as a young man? Frank Gaffney. Frank Gaffney and the Reagan administration. And then after Reagan left, you saw as we fell into that New World Order and still complaining, still fighting and advocating for America first before anybody thought about it, was my next guest, Frank Gaffney. Well, now, as the most unlikely president, changes and breaks the world order that destroyed American prosperity to its fullest extent. And we start to realign in a Trump austerity. Frank Gaffney, I know, is smiling ear to ear. Aren't you, Frank Gaffney?
Well, I'm smiling at that introduction, that's for sure. The rest of it is a sometime thing, but for that, I have a big smile on my face. Shaun, thank you so much. That's really a wonderful trip down memory lane. I hope some of it's true.
Well, here's the thing, Frank. You have to have the perspective of how long this has been taking place until we entered the other era after Reagan, where America is to be first again. And I think, ironically, and I'm shocked, very shocked, wasn't a huge supporter, 15, 16, really wasn't at all, because I was very concerned of the alliance and the relationship with everybody from the Clintons to Schmuck Schumer and the whole thing in New York and Atlantic City. I was like, man, I don't know about this guy, but man, oh man, he's my favorite because he's breaking that world order and really introducing us to a new version of austerity. And he's making our dollar stronger. He's making our foreign policy stronger. He's exposing these rats at the UN. You saw what they did yesterday. They wanted to put the Iran on the nuclear count. I mean, it was unbelievable. He exposes that hatred for him, drags all the cockroaches out from underneath the rocks. That's how I see it. How do you see it?
I think there's a lot to what you just said, and it's hard for us. It's the trouble about living in a moment when history is being made. You don't really understand that that's the case typically until you're looking at it in the rearview mirror, and then it becomes clearer. But I think there's no question about it. Donald Trump has done more to reorder the world and to do it by and large in the direction of America first. And he's relentless, and yeah. I'm grateful every day for him. There are moments in those days when I'm not smiling, I have to confess.
Sure.
But overall, the thrust of what he's doing, the audacity with which he's doing it, and the impact that it will have for generations to come, I feel sure, is extraordinarily heartening.
And courage is contagious. And you see that in the people around him. And I also remember your name, if I remember correctly. I can't remember the year, but it might have been the 90s, early 90s. You also were a victim of character assassination attempt by the financiers of the Ku Klux Klan, known as the Southern Poverty Law Center, weren't you?
You know, I like to say that I was canceled before canceled was a thing. and it was by the combination of the Southern Poverty Law Center, the red, and the green of the jihadis, the Council on American Islamic Relations and the like. And I think they sort of took this idea out for a spin with yours truly as the target to see what they could do, just to vilify and slander and otherwise, marginalize somebody who was causing them all kinds of problems. I'd like to think, not so much because of me, but because of the team that I was helping to lead and the effectiveness that it was having in exposing what they were doing. And that had to stop as far as they were concerned, and they made a good run at it.
And the ally to both is Barack Obama, Chicago's very own, the one who gave strength, who shelved all the investigations into that front group, who shelved all the investigations into every scandal that protected entities like the Southern Poverty Law Center and like this jihadi movement right here in America. So you're vindicated as time goes on. And what I love about telling people about the perspective, you did this before the internet. Think about it. You were on this before the internet. And now you have the internet that validates every accusation you made. This is a textless Islamo-Nazi that, I don't know if you heard this. This went off about 72 hours ago, give or take.
Muslims living in Western secular democracies. We're talking about Europe, Canada, America, Australia, just the Western secular democracies. That's it. What is our goal as a community? What is our final result that we're aiming for when we're living here? Establish a khilafah where we live? Do we wish to turn America and England into Islamic republics and states? Or do we wish to convert the entire population? Our goal living amongst all of you is to wipe away your religion and to replace it with Islam.
Now, he's telling you that from Texas. And after that speech and prior to that speech, the Texas Republicans that were smart enough to listen to warnings from people like you have now hopefully put an obstruction that they can overcome. But this is happening throughout our country, and I'm curious to know how you see the Trump administration. Can something be done from the federal arena more than it has been by just prosecuting and going after money that the Somalian Islamo-Nazis were able to steal on a regular basis from us?
Well, let me talk a little bit about Texas first, and then I'll come to the federal question, because it's really important. Texas, as I know we've talked about, on the 3rd of March, 1.9 million Texans voted yes to a proposition that was on the Republican primary ballot. It was actually an open primary, though, that simply had 5 words to it. Quote, Texas should prohibit Sharia law, unquote. 95-5 was the margin, for those who are keeping track of these things, but that raw number was far and away the largest survey of American public opinion that's ever been conducted, certainly on this issue. And what we saw, I think, was the fruits of the response to precisely the kind of evidence that you just shared with us, Shaun, namely the increasing audacity, the brazenness, and the sheer contempt that is now being exhibited for Americans who are doing too little to impede the agenda of Sharia supremacism, namely our conquest, the destruction of our country, the end of our constitutional republic, the loss of all of our freedoms in favor of a new slavery under the masters of Islam. So this brings us to the federal government. Should the President of the United States be doing the kinds of things that Texas Governor Greg Abbott and Florida Governor Ron DeSantis did over the past few months, namely designate the Muslim Brotherhood and its pit bull front group I mentioned a moment ago, the Council on American Islamic Relations, CARE, as foreign terrorist organizations, and in the case of Texas, transnational criminal ones to boot? You bet he should. And I'm not happy that that's not been done yet. Marco Rubio said something important the other day, our Secretary of State and National Security Advisor. He said that we were going to deport those who glorify jihad. Well, that's exactly what Sharia does, and whether it's deporting foreign nationals who shouldn't be here or whether it's denaturalizing formerly foreign nationals who are now American citizens because they are espousing sedition, that should be done too. In fact, there's all kinds of things that must be done to roll up the infrastructure that these guys have been building. I call it frog boiling, Shaun. They've been at it for years, and frankly, you were very, very generous about your praise of my small role in helping Ronald Reagan defeat the last totalitarian ideology that sought our destruction, namely Soviet communism. We need to do that and more today, and Donald Trump is the man to do it, I'm convinced, but he's got to get cracking on it.
Well, one of the things that's ironic is that right now the Islamo-Nazi movement in Russia is a problem there too. And you start to really look at what you've been warning people about. And when we focus on what's happening around the world, I think Africa is astonishing how it's being ignored. Now, I have named our media what the East Germans called their media, the Department of Agitation and Propaganda, because this is what it is. But when you see the beheading and the slaughter and the genocide in Africa, I couldn't get over that, it's not getting the kind of play. I mean, I play it, my station, this company plays it, and we talk about it, but it's still not getting the coverage it should. But then again, I was reminded, wait a minute, there's 54 countries in Africa. And you could go on any AI right now, and you could say, out of the 54 countries in Africa, how many have open slavery, are practicing slavery, modern slavery today? And it's all 54. All 54 countries in Africa are practicing modern slavery in a form or another. And it's astonishing how in this country, we want to help you. If you were born in this Islamo-Nazi religion and you don't want to practice it, come here. We're going to protect you from the radicals. Or are we? Because the radicals are the ones that take over these areas. Can you imagine, Frank, if by happenstance you're born into this religion and you say, I'm going to get the hell out of here. I got to go to America. And you go to America and you say, well, I got a third cousin. He's over there in Michigan. I go to Michigan and they're practicing the same thing I left. And I can't say if I want to leave the religion or not because they'll kill me here. It's insane how we are ignorant to what we are in essence facing. You're facing right now in the year 2026 a genocide on religion across a continent in a multitude of countries, and it's not being covered.
Oh, man, there's so much to unpack there. Let me start by saying you're absolutely right about Africa, and there's a common denominator. And that is every single one of those countries has at least some population of Sharia adherent Muslims. And there's slavery practice because Sharia condones slavery. In fact, it obliges people to engage in it who are following the model of the perfect man, as they call him, the Prophet Muhammad, because he was all about slavery, sex slavery, other kinds of slavery, selling people, bonding them, the whole deal.
Married to a 6-year-old.
That's going. I mean, the perfect man's model is purely satanic, to be honest with you. But here's a related point, if I may just take one more moment.
Yes.
What you just described is happening in places like Nigeria daily. The beheading of men, women, and children by jihadis. But here's a data point that is just absolutely stupefying, which speaks to your larger point about we're not paying attention, folks. A colleague of mine, a woman who's an absolute freedom fighter through and through by the name of Julie Pickering. She serves on the State Board of Education, an elective position in the state of Texas, and she's been fighting a just unbelievably impressive fight for a curriculum in America for our K through 12 social studies programs that is actually pro-American, not pro-jihadi, not pro-communist. But she told me a story just the other day. She said she was invited to go over to Britain a while ago, and somebody took her into the House of Lords, and they were having a debate there about a government request for considerably increased funding for mental health for young children. And when asked why it was necessary to have this very sizable increase, the House of Lords was told that it's because children in Britain are now subject to increasing and devastating post-traumatic stress disorders. Why is that? Because they're witnessing women on the streets of London and other cities in Britain being beheaded or otherwise mutilated by machete attacks. There were something like 16,000 of them in Great Britain last year alone. So what I'm telling you is it's not just some place in the far removes of the continent of Africa. It's in Western Europe. It's in the midst of the civilized world, and it is coming here. Shaun, it is outrageous that we're not really alive to this. And just if I could tell you one final thing, we have mounted a campaign. It's early days, and we need desperately the help of your audience. We call it the Save Texas, Save America campaign. Because we got to save Texas because it's poised to go over the side if we don't. That vote was vitally important to stopping it. But this is all about trying to ensure that we understand the threat we're facing from these Sharia supremacists, these jihadis. Go to bansharia.com to learn more about it and how you can help, specifically by challenging every candidate for elective office, every state in the country, to take a pledge. We call it the Sharia-free pledge. And it basically just says they'll do everything in their power to prevent the imposition of Sharia on their district, constituents and the American people. How hard is that? Everyone should do it. And if we do it, we might just be able to stave off what's happening in Britain, what's happening in, Africa and most other places around the world from happening here.
So I follow a lot of Europe, and it's fascinating to watch. And from Italy to France, I mean, it's in chaos, absolute chaos. And in Germany, just the other day, there was the Volkswagen driven by the Islamo-Nazi that ran into another crew of people, and you just see little blurbs. And I'm in Florida, Studio Xanadu, I call it, and I've got 3 TVs on. And as you're talking to me right now, they've got Southside Bob on. The Pope of what used to be my religion is a Southside Chicago fracking Democrat who looks like my Auntie Phil. Now, my Auntie Phil was an incredible cook, but less than a handsome woman. Here's Southside Bob, and all the media is talking about how the sea, what do they call it? The sea of whatever, and the Pope, they insulted Trump and Rubio. The insult to all Christians, specifically Catholics, is the silence by Southside Bob, by the Vatican. And I am telling you what I love about Trump. He is fully prepared to break that covenant of omerta, of the Vatican Bank, of the settlement bank, and all the money laundering that's been going on. I think this is exactly who we need, because I love the fact that he said, I don't care what he says. He should be talking about the slaughtered Christians all throughout the world. And you have I've never heard a president say that. So for that alone, he's done more for Catholics than Southside Bob. That's for sure. No offense to my Auntie Phil. Yeah.
And no, it's a wonderful story. Look, the truth of the matter is that Southside Bob, as you call him, is not only not speaking out against Christian persecution around the planet. And by the way, here's another data point. Open Doors USA estimates that there are 388 million Christians around the world who are being heavily persecuted. And that's not just having a bad day. That's being tortured, murdered, raped, driven from their homes, and otherwise, horrifically mistreated. And here's a kicker. This fellow Bob of the south side of Chicago has picked up and is embracing one of the most odious deals that was ever done by a pope. And that's saying something because it's a bit of a checkered record, as you know.
Yes.
But his predecessor, Pope Francis, made a deal with the Chinese Communist Party that basically has turned over the Church of Jesus Christ, the Roman Catholic Church, to the tender mercies, as they might be called, of the Chinese Communist Party. And old Bob is all in for it. Same-o. And that's construing. Most of these horrors, let's be honest, are being inflicted by Muslims doing their Sharia thing. But the Chinese Communist Party, the North Koreans are trying to get in there as well. And it's absolutely repulsive that there's not only silence, but there's complicity on the part of the Vatican.
And the other thing, too, when we actually do stand up and man up, Trump has annihilated more Iranian Islamo-Nazis than anybody in the last 50 years. They don't even have a count yet for us. So when they do, when we do actually stand up for ourselves, whether it's us specifically or what's Israel fighting, a 7-front war, they get their ass kicked when it's actually a war. So, hopefully things will go on. We didn't even have time. I wanted to talk to you about the Chinese communist kid who was linked to the birthing places. I don't know if you saw it in California. And as he's getting in the car, it's a Pagani Huerta. Chrome finish. They start at $2.5 million. Chinese communists. Did you see the story?
I have not seen the story. My friend Peter Schweitzer has written all about it, though. So I'm aware
he's
of
got
the
Pagani. The waiting list is 3 years unless you pay $4 million. The guy paid $4 million for the car. It's just absolutely unbelievable. And here we are working like a couple of suckers, but it's worth it because at least we have character, dignity, and we appreciate our country. Frank Gaffney, president of the Institute for the American Future, president and CEO of Save the Persecuted Christians. Thanks for always making time for me, brother. I really appreciate it, as I've admired you for many years. Thank you.
God bless you, my friend. Talk to you soon.
Absolutely. We'll be back with your calls and comments.
Marxists, socialists, and communists are not welcome on the Shaun Thompson Show on AM 560. The Answer.
The following advertisement includes a celebrity impersonation.
The summer heat